Hello and welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am State Librarian Mary Soucie. This Pathways Through the Prairie is the State Library's podcast where I have conversations with members of the North Dakota library community to learn more about them and to learn more about their library. Today I am talking with Julie Herbel, the library director at the Newtown City Library. I've known Julie, I think Julie, how long have you been at the library?
8 years.
8 years. I was going to say 8, and then I second guessed myself. So I've known Julie for 8 years, and every time I have a chance to talk to her, it's just a really great time. So Julie, welcome, and thanks for taking time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Julie, the State Library's mission is providing pathways to information and innovation for North Dakota's libraries, state agencies, and residents. So tell me, what was your pathway into the library world?
When I went to college in 1980, I actually took classes to become a librarian. And my dad is deaf, and my mother has only 40% hearing. So I have a very loud voice. And I grew up in a library because my mother was a librarian, and it ran through the whole family. So I did a lot of library stuff. So it seemed to me that would be the pathway. Well, I was brought in to the dean, who was president of the University of North Dakota at the time, and he said, "Julie, your grades are really good. We can't keep you from graduating, but we want you to know that no one is going to hire you because of your voice." And so I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Let's go visit some libraries." So we went and we visited libraries, and every librarian there told me to shush. So I said, "Okay, I will go into nursing." So I went into nursing and dropped all of that. Well, I was in nursing, the allied health field, for about 12 years, and a dentist came, and we had a patient who had all of their teeth extracted, and no nurse anywhere could stop the bleeding. So he said, the dentist came in at 3:00 in the morning because the blood pressure was going really low, and told me, "How can you be a nurse when you can't even stop bleeding in the mouth?" So I dropped nursing and went into dental assisting, did that for 25 years. And then I wound up in a car accident, and my doctor told me that you will never get a job where you're at, because we did a lot of stand-up and I was in a wheelchair. So a year on my mother's couch, I finally said, and then I got sued by Blue Cross Blue Shield for $100,000, and because I was a passenger in a car and there wasn't insurance, and they didn't want to pay for anything because of my injuries were over $280,000. Anyway, so I needed to work. So I applied for the position in the Newtown City Library. I came in on crutches and using a wheelchair. And because I had library experience, they hired me. But I'll tell you what,
what a story.
When I interviewed, I talked really soft like this, and I was really, really quiet during my interview. And they hired me, and they came in the next day, and they were like, I'm like, "Hey, come on in." And they're like, "What?" Yeah. So that's my library story.
Wow, that's a story. How did I not know some of that?
They were like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we hired you." I'm like, "Oh yeah, come on in. It's all good. You know my mom, she's deaf, but 40% hearing. It's all good." And they were like, "But you were so quiet during the interview." Anyway, I'm still here 8 years later.
Here you are. And wow. My mom was a librarian as well.
She was. Yay!
She was. Yeah, my mom was a reference and an adult services librarian. And so, yeah, she's one of the reasons I'm a librarian today was my mom. And I always say that I learned my customer service skills from my mom. My mom was just amazing at customer service. And so Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. So three careers: nursing, dental assistant, library. I think I know the answer. Which has been your favorite?
Dental assisting.
Oh, okay. I don't know the answer. Okay. What
I-
was it that you loved about being a dental assistant?
well, I didn't have to talk to people. My hands were always in their mouths. I didn't have to talk to people. They didn't have to talk back to me. It was great.
I've always thought that you love to talk to people, Julie. This is fascinating. I'm so glad we're doing this conversation today.
No, I had to learn to talk to people
Okay.
because I'm not a person who actually likes people.
Are you an introvert?
Yes,
Wow.
I'm an introvert who has a very loud voice.
Okay.
And I scared a lot of people, so then they didn't have to
Uh,
talk to me.
and I'm an extrovert with a loud voice. I also have been shushed by patrons in the library. At the last library I worked at, there was a patron who was, we were proctoring a test actually, and I was taught behind the desk talking with the staff, and the patron came up and said, "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but I am trying to take a test. Could you guys quiet down?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so I went in my office. So, so do you have a bachelor's in library then? That's pretty unique.
No,
No, you just took some
no,
classes.
I took classes, and when I was told that and visited libraries and was told to shush by every single library that I was in, that I changed fields.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
But
Well, I
those
am
that
grateful that I was never shushed out of the library world, because since I was a little kid, I wanted to teach, and then I wanted to be a librarian. When most kids play school, right? A lot of kids play school when they're growing up, and I did that as well. But I played library. I put checkout cards in my books, and if my brothers and sisters wanted to read the book, they had to write their name on my checkout card. So I mean, this for me, this is exactly the path I was supposed to follow. So I love that your path into the library world meandered so well. Are you happy to be here now?
I'm scared to be here now. I struggle
Mm.
every day. My mom is my mentor, and I struggle every day to make the library something that she'd be proud of.
I think you've done that.
Thank you. But that's why, programming. I mean, the library that I grew up in, that my mom had, we did UNICEF. We did, where we Halloween for UNICEF, where we'd go out
Mm.
with little cups, and people would put pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters in it. And that was our Halloweening. I never knew that their candy existed. So, and then she'd have talent shows in her library. Um, and when we'd come to her library as people after school, everybody had to sit down and read. We had a book, and we did a chapter a night, or after school, and everybody had to read a paragraph, and you passed the book around, and then she would stop every once in a while and ask questions, and then you'd continue passing the book around, and everybody had to read. And so she did a lot of activities in a school library. And so, so I pale, and this is without all of the techniques that we have, because this is in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, we got to do programming. We've got to do our books, but we got to do programming, so.
Libraries are a lot more than just about books these days. We do programming. We have libraries of things. You guys have a Cricut. You let people come in and cut things out, or you're going to let people come in and cut things out.
Waiting for you to come in.
Yes, we have to get that rescheduled. Um, but you do programs. And so your library, I've had the pleasure of being to your library, and it's a very welcoming place. You walk in and you are welcomed loudly. Welcome to my library. I'm so glad you're here. So I would never have guessed that you're an introvert. I'm always fascinated when I find an extroverted introvert. Um, And so I bet at the end of the day, you just need to go home and be by yourself for a little bit to recharge.
Until the morning, and then it's like, oh, I have to work in the morning, and then I have to psych myself up, and then I come to work.
Wow. So if you had your choice, Julie, what career would you be in today?
I'd still be in dental.
Okay.
Hmm. But
And
that's,
you've
that's my,
healed. You've healed. Have you thought about going back to the dental field?
well, I healed, but at the time I was in dental, I ran 5 miles in the morning. I jazzercised at noon. I ran 5 miles at night. And I can only stand for a certain period of time.
Oh, sure.
And
Okay.
so I am not physically, even though I can walk and all of this, I'm not physically
Okay.
able to do that world. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you
that's a lot of
what,
standing.
the library pays more than what dental assisting did.
Wow.
It
That's,
was,
I mean, good. I'm glad. I'm
yes.
glad. That's great.
I mean, to go from 25 years and finally make it up to $18 an hour and to be hired for 20 in the library was like, what?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and then to jump, with 8 years going up to 31 is huge,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for me, you know,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
these are
Absolutely.
like nursing, what I was making when I was in nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I still had the passion. So, yeah.
So what's your favorite thing about being in the library world?
My favorite thing is the programming. Seeing what's out there, doing research, talking to people to see what improvements we could do. The hardest thing I had in the library was moving the library.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, I was really glad that people at the state library helped me organize how to take a book off a shelf, put it in a frickin' box so that you'd be able, in a certain way, so that you'd be able to take them out, and understanding I had no clue that you had to take them off in such a manner and mark your boxes and know where everything was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated to move a library. I can remember being a little kid, well, elementary school, so not little, but elementary school, and our community built a new library. We were in just a storefront, and they built a library across the street. And I remember we did the book train thing, right? So we just had a long line of people, and we moved the books
No
one at a
way.
time across the street, and then somebody on the other end, like it goes on this shelf in this place. And then eventually we did move we moved a lot of the collection boxes, right? Because you can't move a whole library one book at it. But I remember like that book, that book line that went across the street. They stopped traffic on Main Street.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I grew up in a small community by Illinois standards. But when I say in North Dakota, I grew up in a small town in Illinois, and people are like, "Oh, how small?" And I'll say 9,000 people. That's it by North Dakota standards. That's not a small
That's a large.
community. By Illinois standards, that's a small community. But the other thing that I really remember, I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I started volunteering in the library when I was about 13 years old. And my senior year of high school, the children's librarian, she was called the youth services librarian, decided to reorganize the children's collection with the dot method. And so, yeah, it was sort of a way to genreify the picture books collection. So if books were alphabet, they had a certain colored sticker dot on their spine, like yellow for alphabet and brown for pets and green for holidays. And she had this whole chart of what the dots represented. And so I spent my whole 2-week Christmas vacation putting dots on books, spine labels. And I remember having a conversation with her uh, about the fact that I wanted to be a children's librarian, but not if it meant I was going to have to spend my life putting dots on books. And she's like, Mary, there's a lot more to being a children's librarian than dots on books, I promise you. So, and then she is the other reason I'm a librarian today, my youth services librarian growing up. Her name is Pam. And she hired me into my first professional position. My first children's librarian, my first youth service position, I followed Pam. She had gone to another library by then. And so she hired me for my first position. And when I got my job here, she had watched me grow up. She lived down the street from me, good friends with my mom because they'd worked together for so many years. And she sent me, do you remember the old Reader's Digest condensed books? So she sent me 2 of them. They're carved into my initials, an M and an S, made out of the old Reader's Digest condensed books. And one of them is Little Women, because that was Little Women still is one of my favorite books. I read it every year growing up. She knew that. And so that's a very special gift to me, just because of all that it represents. And so, yeah, it's, and I still talk to her, not very often. Every once in a while. We're Facebook connected now, and so, I still get to see her occasionally when I go back to Illinois, but, those library connections run deep.
They do.
They run
I
deep.
think every profession, it runs deep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
still maintain my nursing friends,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that I had all the chopper rides with,
Right.
and my dental, everything. Yeah. So,
Sure. So
and
Julie, you said one of your favorite things about being in the library is programming. Do you have a favorite program you like to present?
Legos.
Tell me more.
We're going on Friday for our regional Lego challenge, first Lego League challenge. We have the Discovery, the first Lego League challenge, and we just this year got all the equipment so we can start the tech program for the high school. So yeah, Legos, yeah. And you can build Legos and you don't have to talk to anybody, which was what really got me interested in Legos. Because if I had a bad day at work, it was come home and put together Legos, build something.
So what are you doing on Friday?
Oh, Friday we're going to the team. We're spending the night at Williston, and then Saturday morning we have regional Legos.
Like a Lego club
For
regional.
first Lego Club regionals. Yeah,
Okay.
and we have a new team because some of the families left. So we've got new. We have 2 that came back, and then we've got all the rest are brand new.
Okay.
So I'm not anticipating we'll go to state this year, but I think they'll go to state next year because I'll be excited about it and
I
know exactly what we do.
I didn't know there was a state Lego competition. So is it like you get a pile of Legos and you have to build something, or is it you have to build this specific something?
You build specific.
Okay.
So we have the first Lego League. They build a robot, and then they have to program that robot to do missions.
Oh, wow.
If anybody's interested in knowing about it, you go into the first Lego League challenge, and it's throughout the world. Because if you win state, then you go into nationals, and you actually can compete against people from China and Spain and all the countries. There's all the countries.
Wow.
It's worldwide.
That's super
So,
cool.
so we made it to state last year. So we always go to regionals, but it was the first time that we made it to state. And then, so we'll see what happens this year. Because last year I said, "Oh, we're not going to go," and all of a sudden I got these things like, "Yeah, you're going to state." And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So
That's great. So
Yeah.
does the library fundraise to support this?
Absolutely. I write grants to support that. It's huge. It's about $20,000 a year. Well, not
Wow.
quite 20,000. It was about $10,000 because I have to buy new equipment every once in a while. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course I treat our people really well by spending the night and in a hotel because we have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
In the winter time, I don't know what the roads are.
Right,
I'm
right,
not
yeah.
there with children.
Do
It's not.
you transport them or do the parents transport them?
The parents do if they can.
Okay,
There's in times that they can't, then we have to do a whole legal thing saying
sure.
that it's okay that they ride with me. Um,
Okay.
and so yeah, but I'm totally into that. I'm totally into Legos
That's
and
awesome.
Lego robotics, and to combine that with the coding, they had to learn how to code and be in the coding club, and then they go through, and then that it's kind of like an add-on to,
Mm-hmm.
to coding. So
Nice. I think Minot might have a Lego club as
they
well.
do.
I mean, a
It's
lot of libraries do, but
yeah, they participate in the first Lego League as well,
okay.
but they're in the Minot section where we go to Williston. So
Okay.
we compete against like Alexandria, Tioga, Williston itself, and I think Williston library has it too.
Okay.
So there's 11
So
teams,
are the teams all through libraries or they're through other organizations as well?
other organizations and libraries. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
it's fun. It's a fun thing.
That's awesome. I love that. And now I have to look into First Lego Club, you said.
First Lego League. Yep.
First Lego League.
And they'll take you to the whole thing, and then you can see they every year they change their missions, and it's fun. And then of course we've got our blind date with a book that's starting in February. Every month we have something. Last month we did recipe change, you know, where you swap recipes. So we do
Okay.
some old school, we do some new school, you know. I
So
always have a club.
for the recipe exchange, do they cook the recipe and taste them or they just write it out and exchange it?
Um, some do and some don't. It's entirely up to them if they're working all day and they just come in. But it's fun because you know we do it for women and no children and no spouses. Women only, and we do that once a month. You know, and it's one of our adult programming that we do, and they love it. You know,
Yeah.
trying to come up with something new.
Mm-hmm. Is there a theme then? Do you pick a theme for
Um,
like, is
we
it soups or casseroles or just pick a recipe you like and bring it in?
pick a new recipe that you like and bring it in. It challenges you to cook something new, and it doesn't matter if it's a beverage. Like somebody brought in, learned about infusing fruit into water.
Oh, nice.
So which has been around for a long time. I mean, we used to do that in the 60s, but you know, it was new for this person. So of course it was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, infused water, yay! You know, and so the different combinations of fruit, and she put cucumbers in there, whereas we've only done the fruit, but no,
Mm-hmm.
she did fruit with the cucumbers, and it gave it a kind of a nice little, you know, nice little flavor.
Mm-hmm. I've tried infusing fruit into water and I haven't been very successful at it. So I should have come to your program to learn how to do it, it sounds like.
There you go.
So, Julie, people are often surprised to hear today about all the things that libraries do, especially a small library. How big is Newtown?
Under 3,000,
Under
like
3,000. So you'd consider yourself a smaller library, right?
yeah.
What do you think, if someone listening to this knows nothing about your library, what would they be surprised to learn about your library?
That our library extends to the end of the building. They didn't realize that our library looks small from the front, and it used to be a business, and so you could only walk into the front area, and the lobby was like cut, and all you got was a person. And other
Mm.
than that, you were cut off. So you got about 10 feet of the lobby and you walked out. So people have always been amazed at, what do you mean there's more? They'll go into the book room and then you have to go through the book room to get to the family room where we have call it the rainbow room, where we do a lot of our programming. And they'll be like, what? There's more? Yeah. And we haven't even got to the sides. And they're like, yeah, it makes them ponder. It makes them ponder. And they're just like, oh, no, we have to come in. So we've gotten people in. And the really cool thing is we have this big playroom that people can bring kids with. So if you've got these single people who have all of a sudden their sister comes in and they bring in the nieces and nephews and they're like, what do I do with these? So then they come in and said, hey, they'll call and say, hey, is it okay if we bring these bring my nieces and nephews in? And I'm like, I didn't know you had nieces and nephews. No, but they're here, so yeah, I don't know what to do with them.
Oh, that's hilarious, Julie. Is
So,
there anything that your library circulates that people might be surprised to find out that is in the library collection?
yeah, we do knives and forks and silverware and pineapple to um, you know take the core out of the pineapple. We've got those, and we've got the corn husks where they can just borrow that, and it strips it for when they want to dry their corn for corn soup and stuff. So we got a lot of unique stuff like that people don't normally have in a library.
A lot of our North Dakota libraries have added libraries of things. That's what we call that, right? Those non-traditional items. You might be the first librarian that I've talked to that is circulating silverware. Does it get used a lot?
Yes. What will happen is you have these people who, they have an apartment and they have 4 spoons, 4 forks, 4 knives, which is what they need to survive, and go around. And all of a sudden they'll have people come to eat for a party or whatever. So they'll come to the library and borrow silverware and say, I just need a set for 8 or I need a set for 12.
That's brilliant.
Because
Absolutely brilliant.
well, a lot of people live alone and they aren't into, I need a set of 24 sitting in my repertoire. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, because so I entertain my nieces and nephews a lot. I have them over once a month for movie day. And I love China. I have several sets of family China. And so no matter what we're eating, even if it's tacos, I pull out one of the sets of China and we eat on the China. So I have 2 sets of silverware. But I mean, how brilliant would it be if I could have just gone to the library and borrowed, silverware. I know our library here in town in Bismarck, they circulate fishing rods, um, which was unique to me when I moved here, but again, if you're someone who's on the river, you have someone coming on your pontoon boat, a kid or whatever, they borrow a fishing rod. Libraries circulate all kinds of things that are unique and different and try and meet the needs that you're meeting the needs of your community, right? And that's what libraries are all about. So whenever I'm talking with a librarian, I have to ask that inevitable question that everyone asks us, right? So I won't ask what are you reading now. You can share what you're reading if you want, but what's a book that you've read that you find yourself recommending a lot?
Share.
What is it?
Share. That's, yeah. Have you read Share yet? It's
No.
2024. Yeah, it talks about her life, all the way through. I'm not gonna, because everybody knows Share and how,
Mhm.
you have to, yeah, I would recommend that
Okay.
you Share. Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I used to go to concerts more often. I lived in the Chicagoland area. It was a lot easier, right? Than it sometimes is here. But I remember in the 80s and 90s seeing 2, if not 3 of Cher's retirement concerts. And so when she came out, what was that, like a year ago? And she came out and did another like retirement tour. And I really, really wanted to get to it, but I just didn't have the opportunity to see it. I've been to a lot of concerts. I've seen a lot of people, and Cher is definitely in my top 10 from her pure entertainment value. The outfits she used to wear, the costume changes, and done seamlessly. I was traveling in December, uh, in for a conference, or end of November, I guess it was. And I had an opportunity to go to Mariah Carey's Christmas concert. I'm not a huge Mariah Carey fan, but I love Christmas music, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. But her costume changes were not like, they were lengthier than, so she had to have a whole nother act come out and entertain us.
Oh,
Like Cher's costume changes were like lickety split. Like she walked off stage and it seemed like a minute later she came back on with another 5-foot headdress and a different dress. So one of my top favorite ever. I had the opportunity to see Elton John with Billy Joel.
oh my gosh.
That was an amazing concert.
Oh, I cannot even imagine
Yeah, that one was pretty
what happened
special.
there.
That one
Ah,
was pretty special. So
Elton
my
John does a nice concert just by himself.
he does. As does Billy Joel.
And
Um,
okay,
but the
okay.
two of them together, and it's not entertaining in the way that Cher is entertaining, or
Correct.
Reba. Reba used to also do an amazing concert with costume changes. And so, but Elton John, just his sheer talent. Now, my sister grew up, she was older than I was. She was born in the mid 60s. And so in the late 70s, she was going to Elton John concerts back when he was kind of a different sort of a person who enhanced his life in a different way. And she said those concerts had a whole different level of entertainment because you never knew what you were going to get. But just the sheer talent of Elton John, like to watch Elton John play the piano and sing, and it's different than concerts today. Concerts back then, yes, they had a backup band, uh, but they didn't have all the electronics and the screens coming down and the fireworks shooting up. They got on the stage and they just sang, and he played the piano. Several times he played the piano, just it was Elton John playing the piano, no accompaniment at all. And so I had the honor of seeing him sing Candle in the Wind. Just Elton on the stage with a piano, Candle in the Wind. One of my favorite concert moments ever. So yeah, it was great. But do you have a favorite concert you've been to?
He didn't need the fluff.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
The favorite one I went to, I've always been a how do you pick one? I don't know. I'm like, ooh, Stevie Nicks.
Oh, I bet that was entertaining.
Yeah, she does her presentation, Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. John Denver. Yeah, but then you also go into the Cars and all of the rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you can go way back. It was, yeah. So they were all phenomenal. But I think the best concert I ever went to was one where they had all of the people, like one person would come on for 2 hours, then the next one would come on for 2 hours, and it would go for 3 days.
Wow.
Do you remember those? Did you ever go?
No, I never went to one of those.
Yeah, it was, and they played music all night long, all day long, And yeah.
What an incredible experience. Julie,
Yeah.
you have lived a great life. You have a lot of experiences, and I have just so enjoyed hearing more of your story. And we have some things in common. We're both loud. We've both been shushed by patrons. Now I'm gonna have to ask Superintendent Baszler, was I quiet during my interview? I don't think I was, but I must have been because she hired me. But we both have moms who were librarians that we admired and try to emulate in the work that we do. So thank you so much for taking time to talk with us this morning. It has just been delightful to get to know you. And I hope everyone listening enjoyed this episode of Pathways Through the Prairie. I am State Librarian Mary Soucie, and I look forward to talking with you in a future date.
The North Dakota State Library Talking Book Program offers an array of services for North Dakota residents who are unable to read standard print materials due to a visual, physical, or reading disability. Administered by the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled at the Library of Congress, this program provides patrons with free access to audiobooks and magazines. Find out more information, including eligibility requirements and all the available services, at our website at www.library.nd.gov or by calling the State Library at 701-328-1408.